So we can talk about two kinds of people in this world. Those who are calm, collected, seek peace, seek security, seek to understand others. On the other hand, you have people who are inclined to be meddlesome, are inclined to seek out bad situations and participate in those bad situations. Well, hi everyone, thanks for watching. If you like what I'm doing, please be sure to click the like button and subscribe to this channel. I would really appreciate it. I'm going to read here from these comments by Emmanuel Macron, which are being described as in some way controversial and creating a bit of a stir in the media. After his recent visit to China, Macron said to some reporters, "The question we need to answer as Europeans is the following. Is it in our interest to accelerate a crisis on Taiwan? No." Macron was quoted as saying in the interview, "The worst thing would be to think that we Europeans must become followers on this topic and take our cue from the US agenda and a Chinese overreaction." So just saying some mildly sensible things about not wanting to accelerate a possible crisis over Taiwan and not necessarily needing to follow the United States lead is creating what is being described as blowback. Listen to this article here from CNN. Analysis. Tone deaf Macron faces backlash over Taiwan comments. French President Emmanuel Macron might have hoped to focus this week on what may prove the biggest domestic test of his leadership as France's Constitutional Council prepares to rule Friday on whether or not he can push ahead with controversial pension reforms. Instead, he finds himself grappling with international blowback from last week's friendly visit to China, and in particular from comments that have made him rather unpopular both in Washington, D.C. and with some of his allies in Europe. Oh no, are other countries concerned about his friendly visit to China? Who could that be? Are we talking about Argentina? Are we talking about Namibia? It must be Japan, right? I bet Japan's very upset about Macron's friendly visit to China. Or could it be Egypt? Is it Egypt? Who are we talking about here? Who is this international blowback coming from? Well, of course, we're talking about a very few select countries, the United States, and a few other of the more hawkish members of NATO who see it as inappropriate, apparently, to even talk about not accelerating a crisis with China. Apparently, those are incorrect words, showing an incorrect stance towards China and Taiwan. Or as they would say in United States media, bowing to China or not being tough on China. Thankfully, the French president isn't backing down from his pretty bland, sensible comments. During a visit to the Netherlands, he said, "Being an ally does not mean being a vassal. Doesn't mean that we don't have the right to think for ourselves," Mr. Macron said at a press conference in the Netherlands during his 2-day visit. So he's standing up for himself, he's standing up for his pretty simple, common sense comments that he made. And that's a good thing. That's encouraging to see that a country like France, which is a very integral part of NATO, that they continue to show independence and even a bit of leadership on the world stage when it comes to diplomacy and deconflicting or attempting to deconflict, attempting to stabilize, attempting to maintain normalcies and good relations when and where they can. So while on the one hand you have some who take every opportunity that presents itself to provoke, to harass, to accelerate, to push towards a potential conflict, you have people with a little bit of common sense, like the French president here, saying, well, maybe we don't need to rush towards conflict. Maybe we don't need to accelerate towards a crisis. And if France, this very powerful, important part of NATO is saying that, you can bet that that's how most of the world feels. Most of the world feels even far less inclined to be hawkish toward China. You won't hear anyone in power from the vast majority of the world's countries saying anything like the kinds of comments that you hear from United States admirals and generals and hawkish senators and whatnot. The kind of people who are expressing outrage, expressing disappointment with these comments by Macron, these are the tiniest of tiny minorities, yet unfortunately they wield so much power and influence. So we can talk about two kinds of people in this world. Those who are calm, collected, seek peace, seek security, seek to understand others, seek to maintain order. I would call this a godly perspective, a Christian way of life, to mind your own business, and in as much as you do get into the business of others, it is to seek good for others, to seek good outcomes that benefit others. On the other hand, you have people who are inclined to be meddlesome, are inclined to be argumentative, are inclined to seek out bad situations and participate in those bad situations. I'm going to read a little bit here from Isaiah chapter 59, where it talks about this phenomenon, and it talks about the wicked here in this. It says, "Their feet run to evil, and they make haste to shed innocent blood. Their thoughts are thoughts of iniquity, wasting and destruction are in their paths. The way of peace they know not, and there is no judgment in their goings. They have made them crooked paths. Whosoever goeth therein shall not know peace. Therefore is judgment far from us, neither doth justice overtake us. We wait for light, but behold obscurity, for brightness, but we walk in darkness." Pretty heavy words, and I for one do not want to live under those kinds of circumstances with those kinds of people deciding what goes on in the world. I am thankful when we see world leaders, people who have a considerable amount of influence, like the president of France here, saying decent things that are towards de-escalation, towards peace, towards continuing in security and non-violence. Well, thanks so much for watching. Please leave a comment below, tell me what you think about this, and I will talk to you later.